Stephen, if you were to have a cup of coffee today with the president, what would you tell him about those states from the Dakotas down to Texas? What would be your number one insight to inform President Trump?
That the situation is absolutely dire for the small producer, that is the Shale people in West Texas and, of course, up in the Bakken, North Dakota. The people up in Bakken, as well as their brethren in the Saskatchewan Plain up past Calgary, up in Edmonton, those producers, those landlocked producers that do not have enough pipeline capacity, do not have enough storage, that they're dying for all intents and purposes. So we're looking at a situation now that, yes, the futures contract on the NYMEX went negative, but these markets where you do not have access, you're landlocked, they're trading negative, and they're going to trade negative for the foreseeable future.
Right. Now that I think about it, Stephen Schork, you do look a lot like James Dean in those famous James Dean movies. Oil goes under, oil goes out of business. Are we going to see the same stream of bankruptcies like Diamond over the weekend? Or can we get this done differently this time than Midland, Texas of decades ago?
It's hard to imagine how we don't see an acceleration in bankruptcies. There was already a considerable amount of debt that is coming due in the oil patch over the next 2 years. Some estimates upwards of $150 billion. So clearly, inside of 2 years, this is going to be a much different landscape. Far fewer independent or smaller producers. Those that have the good acreage, that is to say those who have acreage where it's easy to drill on, are going to be acquired. So you're looking at an industry that will ultimately come out of this stronger than ever, with the good acreage being bought on the cheap by the larger producers. So these claims that this is a war on shale, perhaps it is, but it's war that's likely not going to win by those who started it, Saudi Arabia and Russia, given that, one, this is a twilight industry, oil, as we shift our hydrocarbon dependency towards natural gas, and those that do remain will be in the hands of much stronger, leaner companies. So U.S. oil will survive this. It's just going to be very ugly over the next few years.
Stephen, how ugly? So you talk about, of course, bankruptcies and the like. Is any of it systemic? Is there a danger that actually a medium-sized oil company or shale producer can drag a lot of stuff down with it?
Yeah, absolutely. The importance of the energy industry to the entire U.S. economy, I think, is really underestimated. In the state of Texas alone, or in Houston, the state has made tremendous strides over the last boom-bust cycles of oil in the 70s and the 80s. It has diversified into academic research, medical research, technology, so forth. But the economy oil still accounts for 15% of the state's economy and beyond. I mean, in my home state here in Pennsylvania, tremendous stories of what we're seeing in the Ohio Valley, in the epicenter of the Rust Belt, of the collapse of the steel industry in the 1980s, the birth of the petrochemical industry being brought on by access to the Marcellus and Utica Shale, are huge drivers, a shot in the arm up and down the Mon River Valley, north and south of Pittsburgh into Ohio, down through West Virginia, and a tremendous amount of potential for continued growth in those areas that were once left for dead to wither on the vine, only up until 10 years ago. So the danger of what we're seeing, not just in Texas and Oklahoma, and the quote unquote the oil patch, but also in markets that we're really starting to see a rebound brought on by these
Stephen,
industries in Western Pennsylvania. Yes.
Is it a systemic danger?
Tremendous. looking to go beyond here, it is an industry that is simply a driver. I mean, it all begins with oil. So what we're seeing in the pullback in oil, and this is what I thought was a little odd, that the stock market crashed the same day that oil crashed. The systemic fundamentals that brought on last Monday's decline to negative prices weren't just discovered. Oil just didn't go negative for one reason. So why the stock market crashed, I don't know, because oil markets have been leading us down this path for the past 3 months.